Bird, and welcome to Wellness Wednesday. I'm here to speak to you today about speaking to your children about the race issue. This topic is so vital right now because of the incident concerning George Floyd and his untimely death, his murder. And so I'm talking to you today and hopefully to give you some insight and some tips on how we can address these issues with our children. You know, this is not a Black issue, it's an issue for everyone because it's going to take all of us to address this issue in order to make this country a better place. And you know where it starts? It starts at home. It starts with parents having conversations with our children. It starts with parents having the courage to address an issue that is a very uncomfortable issue at times. It starts with parents being able to decide, where do I stand on the race issue? What side am I on? And what are my true feelings about racism, discrimination, mistreatment of others based on the color of their skin and not the content of their character? And so the first thing, parents and teachers, what we need to do is do our own soul searching because each one of us is connected to George Floyd in some way or another. You may not have experienced mistreatment because of the color of your skin or because of your ethnicity, but you certainly have experienced mistreatment in some way. You know, our emotions run very deep. And maybe someone way back when you were a child, or even now as an adult, says something about you, criticizes you for something, and it makes you hurt. It makes you feel pain. That's how we're connected to this incident. We are connected through our own experiences and our own pain. And so our children are watching. Our children are watching television. They're talking on social media. They're listening to the stories of friends that may not look like them. They have different skin colors. They come from different countries. And so the word racism is being discussed on every venue of communication. You may not think that your child knows what's going on, but you can't hide this from them. Because of social media, they can see everything that's happening in real time. Now, depending on the age of your child, they may not fully understand, why are there people in the streets? Why are people breaking windows? Why are people marching in numbers of hundreds and thousands? What's happening? Can you tell me what's going on? What will you do when you get that question? Will you brush it off and say, oh, this is adult conversation? Or you don't have to worry about that. Oh, something's going on the TV. It'll be okay. Or will you take the time to gather your children and gather your family and say, let's have a family talk about something that's happening right now in this country, about people that are hurting, people that are in pain, people that are afraid, people that are tired of mistreatment. And so I spoke to a parent who asked me about speaking directly to their child. What should I say? Because her view was that, well, why don't I just wait until something happens that I have to address this issue? Can I just wait until racism comes to my table or my child is mistreated? Unfortunately, the answer is no. This period is not about waiting. This period is about getting ahead of having an incident happen to your child or to your child's friend. And so when kids can't understand feelings of others, then they don't understand that the words that may come out of their mouth might hurt someone else. And we want to make a world where our children are not hurting others with their words. You know, there's something called learned and then unlearned behavior. Learned behavior is actually mimicking what you see. And so when you have a fresh mind, a healthy mind, a new mind that we find in children who have great, clear spirits, they have no malice against anyone. They see everyone as equal. How does that little mind that was so great and so perfect turn into the mind of someone who could do harm to another just because of how they look? You know, this unfortunate incident is sparking up so many conversations in households, and that's a great thing. And my household too. I remember when I was in my 20s and someone called me the N word for the first time. I never shared this with my children. I can't tell you why. Maybe I didn't think it was necessary. Maybe I thought that this time would pass and they would never have to hear that. My father told me the first time someone called him the N word. My grandmother and my mom told me also the first time that someone called them the N word. My father will be 90 years old in September. He still remembers the incident, the person, the day. I still remember as a 21-year-old college student when someone did call me that N word. But I was brought to tears yesterday as my two daughters reminded me of when they were called the N word. How many years and decades have passed that we have generational recall of being called something other than our name? It surprises me when I hear people say, there's no race problem in America. Everyone loves everyone. How so untrue, but how so sad that is. My daughters recall the incident to me when they were in kindergarten and their teacher did a exercise where they had to draw a face. And so when I came into the classroom, I saw faces that were circles of white and pink. And then at the bottom, I saw two pieces of black construction paper where their teacher had put them in blackface. My children come from a diverse background, and so they are of all colors, but they are not the color of construction paper. No one is. No one is the color of black construction paper. And decades later, my daughters are still hurt by that incident. I went to the teacher and I asked, why did you use black construction paper? She said, because I thought I was doing the right thing. And that brings me to you, teachers. We know that you have kindness and goodness in your hearts for our children, but no one knows everything. And so the lesson that was learned that day, so many years ago by my daughters, was that they were different from their classmates. You know, sometimes we can say things to children and we don't think that it leaves an impact, or through our own mistakes, we can do something that we thought was the right thing to do, and it leaves an indelible mark that they can never, ever forget. I want to ask you, as parents and teachers, do you have a rainbow of friends? Do you have friends that are of all beautiful colors and ethnicities? Do your children have a rainbow of friends? Do they play with other children or hang out with other children that are very different from themselves? May speak a different language, come from a different country, have different things that they celebrate and holidays that are special to them? Because if you only live within your circle, that everyone looks like you, then how do you get to meet the wonderful people that are in different communities and different neighborhoods? You know, one of the things that I love about coming to Greenberg is the diversity of students in this school district. They are of all ethnicities and all races and all colors. And I've been lucky to be a part of many celebrations and when they recognize the diversity days that they have for their students. But when they go home, who are they going home to? Are they going home to parents that don't embrace that diversity also and are not promoting racial justice, equality, freedom for all? Who are you as a parent? And I think that's the most important question that we should be asking ourselves today. Who am I? What side am I on in this battle? You know, I have had conversations with friends that are not of my ethnicity. They are of Caucasian descent. And they will say to me, I never thought of you as my Black friend. Sometimes that surprises me because I wonder, do you not see me? Or is it more comfortable to not see me for who I am? When I try to share my stories of racial discrimination, of mistreatment, you look at me like you're listening, but I don't think you hear. In September, we're going to have a whole new population of children that are going to ask the same question of the adults that care for them, for the teachers that will be teaching them. Do you hear what I'm saying? Or you just look at me like you hear what's coming out of my mouth? Our students are now have been under so much duress between the stress of the pandemic, the dissolution of their classroom experience, just to be uprooted in a day or two from a life that they knew, of going to school every day, of having their routine, of having their classroom exercises and enjoying the great academic experience that they have at Greenberg. And now to add on top of that, they have a layer of stress and questions and anxiety about what's happening in the world right now. And we need to have a conversation with them as educators that you teachers are going to need to be prepared for in September, because we're not going to be able to turn a deaf ear. We can't just divert their attention to another activity in the classroom. We're going to need to have the answers to their questions. And so I'd like to give some tips on what parents can do as we prepare to have these young people come back into their environment. From an educational standpoint, we can get books, we can direct them to resources online. You can investigate sources where there's material on diversity. You can also share new experiences with them. Let's look online and talk about other people's methods of celebrating other holidays. Let's read a little bit of history about their plight, about any kind of discord that was in their country, about words like race, discrimination. Those are the things that we can do. We can also be very alert and astute in what's happening as far as these protests are concerned, why people are protesting, even bring them back to information on the civil rights movement and other movements in this country, the women's movement, when people were not treated correctly and were not treated fairly. This is not new in this country. We have faced challenges like this before, but our children don't know that. And so they are watching and waiting just as we are to wonder what's going to happen to me in all of this chaos, in all of this upheaval. Am I going to be okay? So, race is a social construct, it's a man made construct, which means that man can fix it. We can learn to do the things to stop mistreating people. Just as we learned to mistreat people, we can learn that that behavior is wrong. If I ask you parents to think about, when did you first say no to your child? When did you tell them that something they were doing was wrong? When did you tell them that something they said might have hurt someone's feelings, even their own brother or sister, or you? If you think back to when you had to tell your child that you hurt someone, you can just fast forward now to explain to them that people have been hurt, their feelings have been hurt, their livelihoods have been threatened, they are confused because they are being mistreated because of how they look and the color of their skin. And for our middle and high school students, this is a teaching moment. And it's not that it's not a teaching moment for the youngest of them, but for our middle and high school students who have been reading about revolutions and about wars and about uprising and unrest and social injustice and discrimination. They are watching it now in real time. They're watching it unfold before their eyes. And for a lot of these young people, they want to take action. They feel encouraged to speak. They feel encouraged to do something about it. So, should we contain that energy in them? Should we disregard their feelings? Out of many hardships and hard times and situations that were devastating comes some light. Leaders are born. People are awakened. Things change and things get better. And so, if you have a young person in middle school or in high school who's saying, I want to do something, I think that's worthy of a conversation. I think it's worthy of a conversation in order to allow them to share their own experience. When I said that I sat around with my children and we spoke about our experiences, I watched their faces and I looked at the pain that was coming out that I thought had passed. I didn't think that they were any longer going back to what happened in elementary school or nursery school or even high school because they're a long way away from those years. But it was so easy for them to recall that pain and that hurt that they felt. It was so hard for them to think back to the mistreatment that they had received, that my daughters had tears in their eyes. They cried over those experiences when people mistreated them because of the color of their skin. And so I challenge you to ask your child, is there anything that you haven't told me? Is there any incident that has hurt you that you thought you should keep to yourself? Did anyone ever say something to you and you felt that they were saying this just because of how you look? I think you're going to be surprised. Children are so resilient, and we know that they are. And some of our children assume to be so tough, and things just hit them and they just keep going. But nothing that happens to us, whether we're a child or we're an adult, escapes our brain. Our brain stores everything that happens to us. It's just a matter of when those images and those memories come forward. We're trying to develop a new world. We're trying to develop a new environment of inclusion, of equal opportunity, of fairness. And so before we can heal, we have to bring our own hurt to the surface. We have to take it and look at it. We may have to analyze it. We have to share it. We have to call someone up and say, do you know what this brought to mind? Do you know that I didn't think I was still hurting because someone called me out of my name or made fun of me because of the color of my skin or the texture of my hair? You need to have conversations as adults to bring to the forefront your pain, your hurt, your relationship to this situation that we are facing now. I think it is a time of purging. We have to purge what has been simmering inside, hopefully in a peaceful manner. But we have to purge through conversation, purge through writing, put your feelings down on paper, really take a look at what side I stand in the issue of race. Because there's only two sides, there aren't three. You are either on the progressive side, you are on the side of equality, you are on the side of equal opportunity, you are on the side of freedom for all, or you are on the side of beating people down, keeping them unsettled, thinking that they should not have equal access, that because of the color of their skin and the texture of their hair, that they are not equal with you. You know, I had a conversation a long time ago, and it ended with someone saying to me, I did not know that you wanted the same things that I want. I've never spoken to a Black person before. And that was so sad and shocking. But that person took the time to listen to me and to hear things that surprised them that shouldn't have. What surprised them was that I wanted the same America for my children that they wanted. I want my children to go to the best schools. I want my children to have the best education. I want them to be able to pursue their goals. I want them to not walk in fear. I want them to feel that they can go to a police officer and get help and not hurt. I want them to feel safe. I want them to have a profession. I want them to have dreams and goals. I want them to live the American dream. And that person said, I didn't think that your people felt the same way that we feel. It was not that long ago that I had that conversation. But I think that that person walked away with a different sense of who we are. And so I want to end this talk, this conversation, with encouragement. I want to say that most of us are better than this. Most of us celebrate inclusion. Most of us celebrate and embrace differences amongst each other. Most of us see the benefit of sharing our ethnicities. Most of us see the benefit of getting to know someone who does not look like me. Most of us are great people. We want great things. We want the American dream for our children. We want freedom and justice. And if you can instill in your children a sense of humanity, a sense of empathy, a sense of kindness, then we're going to have a better America and a better next generation. Thank you, Greenberg. It's been a pleasure to speak with you. And I encourage you to stay safe, stay well, stay encouraged, keep the faith.